Hello, 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 everybody. So good to see you. So good to have you. So good to be with you today at Talking to You and Me. This is Coach Powell from Coach Powell Training Development, coming to you live from my old home where I grew up in 1506 Huntersville Avenue in Fort Washington, Maryland. Loving the opportunity. I'm here today because I'm helping my dad get ready to move and do some other things. And it's so good to see you all. So good to be with you all. Today's show is super special. As you know, we're starting a brand new series. And this series is all about everything that you need to know to make sure that you understand how to offer and give respect, affection, and praise. How to give it, how to share it, how to receive it in the most appropriate and the most powerful of ways. Here's why this is important. When you get this right, when you get the RAP approach right, you create around you an environment of inclusivity, an environment of closeness, an environment where people feel like they could share their thoughts and their ideas in the most meaningful of ways. And that's super important for anybody who is in business, anybody who's in entrepreneurship, because as we move and learn and move forward, we're going to be coming up with different types of workspaces, different types of social environments, different types of engagement. And it turns out that people need to feel good about what they do every day. And they need to not see it as necessarily a job, but as an opportunity to contribute. And they can do that if the environment is created in such a way is that their emotional stability is taken care of, their financial stability is taken care of, their well-being is considered in the workplace. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, this episode of Coffee Tea You and Me, like all episodes of Coffee Tea You and Me with Coach Powell, is brought to you by the wonderful men of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, Theta Tau Sigma chapter, and all of my clients and friends that I hold so dear. They empower me and give me the ability to do this wonderful program for those of you all. And I wanted to make sure I did this right. I got a couple of things I want to share with you. Boom, there it is. That's the banner. So if you need to contact me, if you need to ask me questions, if you need to share any thoughts or ideas, here's how you can do it. You can submit that information in the chat. You can call me on my phone. That information is right there. Leave me a message if I don't answer. Take a look at my website, whatever you like to do, however you like to reach out. I appreciate your feedback and your constructive ideas, not criticism, but your constructive ideas are always helpful, always wanted, always desired. If you know someone who I should be considering for my other show, which is called Inside the Business Mind, where we go inside the business mind of a local or even an international business leader on a regular, consistent basis, do me a favor. Give them my information. Let them know how to reach out to me or reach out to me yourself on their behalf. It's a great opportunity to support small businesses and support business leaders, especially those here in the Northern Virginia area, which is a responsibility that I have as the Bigger and Better Business Director for my wonderful fraternity. And I take that responsibility seriously. I want to make sure that we promote and adopt as many small businesses as we possibly can, and we do everything we can to encourage them in their journey because we know how difficult it can be. All right, so I'm going to give a quick little commercial break, and then I'm going to come back with you guys and get the show started. Okay. Welcome back to Coffee Tea You and Me. As always, guys, you guys know I do this show every Friday. Feel free to follow. Feel free to share. Feel free to give me a thumbs up. Whatever it is that you do, engage as much as possible. In fact, if you're watching the show, I don't care where you're watching the show from. If you are watching it on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on YouTube, or any other places where we broadcast live, make sure you put your information in the chat. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're coming from. Tell us if you have a business, if you have a business idea, if you have something, anything you want to share. This is an entrepreneur-friendly show. So I want people to understand that. Don't feel like you have to hold anything back or you can't say this or that. I mean, keep it PG, right? But make sure that you do promote whatever your business ideas are. If you have an event going on or something that you want people to see and share, this is a great place to do it. I see that I have almost decent internet connection, and that's because I'm in an internet dead zone. So I'm using my phone as the internet, and it's a little bit spotty. So I do apologize for that. There's nothing I can do about it now. The show's going on, right? But I'm going to do the best I can to keep the show short and keep it focused on the topic at hand. For those of you who've been paying attention, in the chat, you may see a post from an assessment that I created on the RAPapproach, which is, again, a process I created years ago to help organizations and groups start to develop the kinds of organizational culture that really, really supports people and supports the resources, the very human resources that we have. And I created this assessment as a result of this, and I'm going to go over the assessment with you. And so, if you are watching this, you should be able to download this on your own hard drive and make a copy of it, or keep a copy on your drive, or whatever you want to do. I don't care what you do with it. Um, but most important, you can take this assessment for yourself. And I'm going to go through the questions of the assessment. I'm going to go through the reasons why those questions are important. And so, there's only 9 questions here, right? So if you think about it, what are we asking you to do? We're asking you to look at each question and then ask yourself the question: how often did you engage in this kind of behavior? Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. And I'm going to suggest that you print this out, or circle, or on another set of piece of paper, whatever. Write down your responses to these questions, and then start to really assess where your responses are coming from and what they really mean to you. So question number 1 is this one. The question number 1 is about respect, right? We know what respect is. Respect is your ability to hold someone else in high regard and honor them, right? And or honor them, held them in high regard and or honor them. Now, what does that look like in real time? Being able to offer professional respect to people that in your network, your stakeholders, your referral sources, your employees, your investors, your anybody who would support you in any way, shape, or form, including those who depend on you. These are all people that I would consider stakeholders that you need to be able to show and demonstrate a level of professional respect with. So where are you? How frequently do you acknowledge these stakeholders and their contributions to your ability to do the thing that you need to do? And I know you're thinking, well, oh my God, I'm a micro business, and only people depend on me are my family members, and they don't do anything for me. I do everything for them. Not true. If you really stop and think about it, they may be even just providing you the emotional support that you need to keep doing what you do. Maybe the motivation that you need to keep doing what you need to do. So there's all kinds of ways you really can, if you think about it, when you're acknowledging someone else's contribution, you're not just acknowledging their financial contribution. They might be acknowledging their emotional contribution. You might be acknowledging the time, talent, or treasure they're willing to spend with you. You may be acknowledging the sacrifices that they're making on your behalf in order to, make your life a little bit easier. You make your business a little bit easier. Contribution comes in many different forms and many different sizes. So be careful as you answer this question, because I'm asking you, when you consider the people that your stakeholders are, could be your team members, could be all kinds of different people, but look at all the stakeholders that you have and ask yourself the contribution. Ask yourself the question: how often do you acknowledge their contributions? Never, rarely, sometimes, often, or always. Circle the bubble that you think it makes sense for you. Number 2, do you actively listen to the concerns and feedback of others? This is critically important, because when people feel understood, they're more willing to try to understand you. So there's a lot of reciprocity in there. If you as the leader, or you as the team member, or you as the whatever it is role that you play in the world that you're playing in, if you practice active listening, what's going to happen most likely when people are normal in their emotional responses is they're going to feel understood. When people feel understood, they feel comfortable. And when they feel comfortable, they start to share more. They start to share more. And eventually they get to the point where they feel like, wait a minute, I know a lot, you know a lot about me. You've made me feel good. You made me feel understood. Now, maybe I should find out a little bit more about you. Now, what's important about that, when that reciprocity comes back around to you, if it takes 15 minutes or half an hour, 5 days, however long it takes, when that reciprocity comes back around to you, you need to be ready to say something that's meaningful. That's another workshop we'll get to later. But it's important that you actively listen to someone because the act of listening actively is an act of respect, right? The act of receiving feedback from others, again, is another act of acknowledging that they have something meaningful to share. You're interested in what they have to share, and your concern might match their concerns about what they have to share. So it's very, very important that you do that because people feel like they belong when you listen to them. They feel like you care when you listen to them. And by the way, don't practice this and not want to have them belong or want to care or genuinely you want authenticity and genuineness when it all comes around. Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. Question number 3. How often do you demonstrate fairness and impartiality in your decision-making processes? Now, this is the question that most people will go, they'll turn on its head and go, well, I'm fair and I'm impartial in my decision making. I've judged myself to this. But what I'm asking you is not to your own judgment, right? I'm asking you, how often do you demonstrate fairness and impartiality? That means you have to receive some feedback from other people. Feedback that says, yeah, you are in fact really fair. You are in fact, you know, very open-minded and not as judgmental as others might be in the same space, right? How often do you demonstrate these things? Because other people have given you the feedback. If you demonstrate this often, or always, or never, or rarely, or sometimes. But I'm not asking you to judge yourself here. I'm asking you to pay attention to the feedback that you've gotten from others over the past before you answer this question. This respect, professional respect. Now, if you have always on all of that, then all you can do from this point is start asking questions about how can I be better at delivering professional respect. I'm already a great listener. I'm already acknowledging contributions to team members constantly, always, and everywhere. And I know that I'm making fair and impartial decisions because other people reflect that back to me quite a bit, right? If you're not receiving that and not understanding that, give me a call. Let's talk about this. But I do a lot of training on this, and I wanted you all to get this. So I created this little simple self-assessment to take to help bring awareness to you. Now, if you are a person who have never demonstrated these types of thoughts and feelings, don't kick yourself about it. That's not the point of this exercise for you to be down on yourself. It is to be aware of the situations that you find yourself in situations and the way you deal with others in a professional sense, so that you can get a sense for maybe what changes you may want to make to your relationships with your bosses or and people that you lead or investors or anybody that you have in your sphere of influence. You may want to show more professional respect to. And if you do, you may get a hint from just being aware of the situation. The second part of this is my actual favorite part of this assessment, and it's about affection. We tend to, especially in the US and the UK, have problems with this word because we don't know how to show appropriate affection in the workplace and professional atmospheres and our association meetings and our networking functions. We don't know what's appropriate. And I have to tell you, there are very few rules of thumb about what's appropriate for each one of us because we're going to all think differently about this. But what I want you to understand, more important than anything else, is that we need affection. We need affection in order to feel a sense of belonging. We need affection in order to feel like we matter. We need affection in order to feel like what we're doing and who we are is valuable in the spaces that we get to be in. I said this before and I'll say it again. We're all working on our MRS degree, right? We all want to be meaningful, relevant, and specific and significant. That's the S. Meaningful, relevant, and significant. We all want to be that every day all day long. We want that in our lives. We want people to demonstrate or help us demonstrate meaningful, relevant and significant options that we want to deliver, and we want to receive them as well. So appropriate affection is a part of how we know it's actually working. Right. Number 4, do you show genuine concern for the well-being of others? When you ask somebody, how you doing? Right? Do you mean it? Are you really interested in how they're doing, or what they're thinking, or what they're feeling? Never, rarely, sometimes, often, or always. And it goes without saying, if you're genuinely concerned about others, then you have a claim to the genuine concern of others. But if you're not concerned about the well-being of the people that you're working with, people that you're asking to invest in you, people that you're asking to, go the extra mile for you, people that you're asking to give you the benefit of the doubt, people that if you're not interested in them and their well-being, do you really have a legitimate claim on their interest of your well-being? Again, the law of reciprocity is at work. You should ask yourself the question: how good are you at this? Right. Number 5. How often do you create opportunities for team building and relationship building? I can't say this enough. With amazingly good connections and relationships, everything in your life is made easier. Everything goes faster. Trust happens faster, and with high trust comes high opportunities and high quality satisfaction over everything that you were going to do. So you have to ask yourself the questions. If there's a trajectory for your time, if there's a trajectory for your abilities, your capabilities, and things that you're going to do, and that trajectory is in the stratosphere in terms of what it can do for you, you'll be able to be doing, have at the end of whatever it is that you're trying to get to, right? At that point, there's going to be people you're going to have the right people around you in order to sustain whatever level that you're trying to achieve, right? So having the right people around you makes it easier for you. But now, if you think about it, this trajectory that I talked about has your ability to surround yourself with the right people at that time is going to be critical. But so that means for right now, whatever that time is, it could be 15, 20 years from now, 5 years from now, you should be building that team right now. Because that's not the team that you're with right now, by the way. Some people are gonna go there with you to your ultimate vision, but most are just gonna drop off as they start to see the synergy between you two waning. Right? So how often do you create opportunities for team bond and your relationship building on a regular, consistent basis, every day, all day? Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. Number 6. I love this one because this is where the rubber meets the road. When people have a need that you notice and you see and you understand and you offer no support to that need, whatever the need is, I don't care. Don't get twisted about this personal versus business versus whatever it is that you think that's important to you, relevant to you, because it's all relevant. You cannot separate humans from their emotional content. You cannot separate human beings from whatever they need to do to be relevant in any space at any time. So you want to make sure that you are there offering both the professional development, the personal development, and the care that is required to deal appropriately and effectively people. So are you approachable and available for others when they need support? Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. The next question we got to talk about. Now we talked about affection. We've talked about professional respect. We talked about appropriate affection. Now we're going to talk about the last part of the RAP approach. Not the most significant part of the RAP approach, but a very significant high opportunity, again, to work human to human with people, right? Let's talk about authentic praise. And there are 3 questions that we're asking here in the assessment that can really help you put this in perspective. Question number 7. How frequently do you offer specific and meaningful praise to your collaborators. Well, some of you are like, I don't have any collaborators. I'm all by myself. Again, you're going to be a rarely, sometimes, maybe never, right? In that question. But if you think about it, aren't you always actually collaborating with somebody in some way? Whether that's training that you've had that have informed your expertise or your talent that you've had right now to do the things that you can do. That could be school. It could be, professional training that you've had and developed. You maybe work with somebody else in developing that training. Maybe you worked on case studies with a group of people for your MBA program, or something that you did in law school, or something that you just did with your experience working with other people on a team. Maybe even a joint venture agreement. Maybe it's been somebody lent you a book that you can, upgrade your world. How frequently do you offer specific and meaningful praise to those people? Because when you can literally give specific and meaningful praise to people, we're not talking about blowing smoke. We're not talking about faking it till you make it. We're not talking about building rapport. We're talking about going deep with what it meant for you to receive whatever it is that you receive from someone else, and sharing that testimonial, that endorsement, that acknowledgement, that praise publicly with other people. Never, rarely, sometimes, often, or always. Number 8, do you celebrate individual and team achievements publicly? Super important. I find myself when I'm coaching my leaders, and they're knocking off goals as they go along, right? And I find myself reminding them, you have to take the time to celebrate your wins and the people that helped you make the win. Celebrate their wins. Celebrate opportunities that they had with the people that helped them make the win. The more often you do that, quite frankly, the more fun you're going to be around and to be connected to. They say that all work and no play makes for a dull boy, right? You don't want to be a dull person. You don't want to be the person who doesn't know how to fraternize with others. You don't want to be the person that doesn't understand how to share somebody else's greatness publicly, because they really can't do it for themselves. I can stand on the tallest mountain, yell to the world that I'm the greatest thing since sliced cheese, and there's nobody greater than me. I can do that, right? However, when somebody else does it, it's actually believable and more effective. I'm trying to win the trust of others. Isn't it always greater to have somebody else who already won that trust with them sing my praises, say how wonderful I am, share my talent, my treasure, the things that I bring to the table that are meaningful, relevant, and significant. There we go again, right? So again, number 8, do you celebrate individual and team achievements publicly? Never, rarely, sometimes, often, or always. Number 9, and the last question we have to deal with when it comes to delivering on authentic praise is, how often do you provide constructive feedback that helps your industry peers and really everybody around you grow, right? How often do you take the time to listen so actively and so well, and engage so well with people in your sphere of influence, and give them the kind of quality feedback that they need to have to help them grow, help them be better, and help them find more meaning, more relevance, more significance in the world? How often do you do it? And a lot of people go, I'm afraid to give people feedback because they may read it as criticism. Well, the better you get at giving that feedback, well, constructively, the less that's going to be the case, because it's about how you give the feedback, more so than it is just giving the feedback, right? How you do it, doing it constructively, makes a big difference. I was just on the phone with a client of mine who tends to blurt their thoughts and feelings in a situation, sometimes causing an adverse reaction from other people because without really thinking about how it might sound or how it might feel, the idea that they're about to share, they tend to just and they used to hide behind the shield of being, well, I'm being frank and I'm being honest, and everybody could appreciate honesty, right? And honesty is always the best policy, right? Well, the reality is, once you leave that scorched earth of a person's feelings on the floor, you got to go back and you got to clean that up. And it might not be as easy as if you never burned them down in the first place. But you just think about it. How do you give constructive feedback? Always, everywhere. Um, Super important as a skill set to learn how to deliver, how to be, and then when you start to do it well, like every other skill, you can become and you can begin to have innovative strategic practices about how you deliver constructive feedback. But it is not until you do this really, really well, you're going to get to that place where you're creating the environments around you that are healthy, that are resilient, that will allow people to bring their A game, so to speak. So now, when you go back through all these questions and you fill out the survey and you really do the deep assessment and all that kind of good stuff, you're going to find that you're going to be stronger in certain categories and you're going to be weaker in certain areas. Um, and it's okay that you're weaker in certain areas. So again, don't kick yourself about that because all we're trying to do with this assessment is bring awareness to those situations where you can begin to think about and act a little differently. So I want you to reflect about those areas which you have high scores and the areas which you have low scores. And by the way, so you know, high is always, always, always high, right? And never, 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 never is low, right? So those places where you have never, those are low. And places where you have always, and often or always, those are high, right? So once you've done that, I want you to really sit back and reflect. How does it show up in your world? How does it show up and how does it affect other people around you? All right. Acknowledges, I mean, the strengths as well as the weaknesses, right? Don't just acknowledge the weaknesses because that'll put you into depression, right? So you want to do, do acknowledge your strengths, even the ones that are just often, not always, right? Are strengths, but just give you all often gives you room for improvement. I love often because it gives you room for improvement. Always, little difficult to find improvement. Now you have to practice more consistently. Pretty much all you can do to get better is to just continue to practice and continue to reflect and continue to engage and so on and so forth. But once you've done that assessment, then set some goals for yourself because there's going to be some areas that you can improve and set some those goals need to be actionable, right? You need to make sure that you need to find ways to really do this. I suggest you develop a plan, a step by step. Start with the baby steps, to make certain changes and certain behaviors over a period of time. That will really be helpful to you and generate more opportunities than you really could ever imagine. More important than anything else, because the RAP approach is built to help you start to develop in these three key areas, the people that you're working with, you're going to really begin to grow professionally when you engage with others, right? So ask for feedback. Ask for people who notice that you're improving in certain areas to let you know what they notice and what they see about that. Because when you seek feedback, when you learn to be a feedback seeker, that also gives you a right to give feedback. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so it's almost like, again, the law of reciprocity works in reverse as well as it works in the forward motion. So the more you give, the more you can receive. But the more you receive, the more you can also give. It's a continuing loop. So always look for continuous improvement opportunities. Look for work with your teammates, work with your assessment partners, work with your creative directors or people that you're working with in the workplace, whether they're on your team, whether they're leading you, whether you lead them. Learn to be a feedback maven. This is one of the things that I think is so important in the world we're in today. Why? Because the old rules just simply don't apply today. We are doing everything differently at every level. What used to be a great father is sort of like a mediocre father right about now. What used to be a great husband, a great business leader, it's not going to hit the mark today because the considerations are different across every age group, across every team member, across everything that you work with. You're going to find that the rules that existed even 20 years ago are outdated and don't work as effectively as they used to work. Now, there are principles. Don't get me wrong about this. There are principles that are timeless, right? In order to be a trustworthy person, there are some things that you seriously have to do, right? If you don't speak the truth, if you don't follow up with people, and if you don't keep your promises, then you're not going to be trustworthy. And that again starts with integrity, right? If you can't even make promises to yourself that you keep, should you be willing asking people to trust you in the areas that you don't even believe in and trust yourself in? So this is the reason why we wrote the RAPapproach assessment, right? It's for you to look deep in your own self, in your own character, with people that you get to work with, the people that you get to play with on a regular, consistent basis, and ask the questions. Ask, how am I doing in these areas? Because before you can create a team, before you can create a culture and an organization or association that you're working with, you got to be solid with yourself first. And even if you're not, if you're on the way to getting better at those things, as long as you publicly admit that these are the things I'm working on, people are willing to work with you. Why? Because you're showing up as a human being, but you can't fake it. You can't pretend. You can't um, do that because it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. People are gonna smoke you out. They're gonna grow above you and past you and around you, and they're gonna know, why aren't you catching up with this? And it's because you weren't doing this with a level of authenticity. You weren't doing whatever you're doing with a level of respect, affection, or praise. So that's the mechanics of the RAPapproach, right? For the next couple of weeks, we're going to get into this and break this down in so many different ways. It's going to make your head spin. We got about 10 weeks we're going to spend on these ideas and these concepts. We're going to go deep in each of these ideas. We're going to talk to you about the biblical concepts of it. We're going to talk to you about what today's neurological studies and scientific research is saying about this. We're going to come up with some of the most amazing quotes that some are going to be familiar with you, some are going to be not so familiar with you. But overall, if you really get this and understand this and start to behave in the way that the RAPapproach suggests, you're going to create around you an environment of inclusivity. You're going to you're not going to have to worry about, all the buzzwords that everybody's afraid of, because you will have everything you need to be what you need to be for all the human beings you get in contact with. And if you're a leader, this stuff becomes invaluable. Okay, I'm Coach Powell. It's Coach Powell Training Development. I hope you guys had a great time today. I know I did. If you have any questions, if you have any thoughts or any understanding, you can leave it right here in the chat. You can watch it. If you're watching this from wherever, you're going to watch it on repeat tomorrow night, this week. Go ahead and put your information, your thought processes in the chat. Really appreciate you. I see my girl Carolyn Dennis is out there. Hey, Carolyn. So nice to see you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you all so much for engaging and asking questions and putting your thoughts and ideas in the chat. That really means a whole lot. I'm hoping that you enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed it too. You all have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next Friday right here at Coffee to You and Me with Coach Powell and Coach Powell Training and Development. God bless you. May the Lord God bless you real soon.